Hey everyone, Piano Man Chuck here, and I'm here today with the Kawai MP7, and I am really excited with this board. This is one of the best stage pianos I have ever had the privilege to play on. I am so impressed with this board. I mean, I'm in a classic rock band now, as you know from a previous video, and I've been experimenting with different stage pianos with that. I've been experimenting with the Kurzweil Forte, the Kurzweil Artis SE, the Casio Privia PX350, and the PX5S. I was going to try the Chord Kronos, but it's a little bit too heavy and too long. And now, although I haven't tried it in the band context yet, it is offering promise that is better than all the other boards that I've tried so far with this Kawai MP7. So let's get right down to it with the intro of this board, starting with the ins and outs. And you can see it's labeled here so that you don't have to go to the back of the board to see what you're doing. So let's start out with the ins and outs. The first thing you'll notice is you've got a pair of line inputs, and they're labeled left and right. And if you're just having a mono rather than stereo, you can just hook it up to the left, and pretty standard. And the nice thing about this line input is you've got a line in fader here, so you can control the input levels directly from the board. Very cool. Then you've got your standard outputs, left and right. And if you just hook up the left, you've got mono, pretty standard. You hook up both, you've got stereo. Then we go over here to the 4 pedal inputs. You've got the damper input, you've got the damper / sostenuto input, you've got the soft pedal, and you've got an expression pedal input. Now, as far as the damper pedal goes, this is one of the few boards that actually comes with a half damper pedal. And it's actually kind of big. If you're traveling with a gig bag, it's kind of high. It's really classy looking, but it is big, so keep that in mind. But if you go with another board like the Nord or the Kurzweil or something like that that offers half damper, it doesn't include the half damper. You have to buy that optionally. And the most popular one right now is the Chord DS1H, which you can use on this, but why bother when it comes with the half damper? Save yourself about 60 bucks right there. Okay, next is the USB to host, which means you can take a USB cable, hook it up to your computer. From there, you can interface with it and record to your DAW or your sequencer or whatever. Then you got your standard MIDI in, out, and through. On the other end here, you've got the AC power plug that goes into this unit from the AC power wall supply that you have. And of course, the on-off switch. Now, what's really nice about this, unlike other keyboards, this is well engineered. And you can see it with the power cord because the power cord is on the separate side from all the other cables. Some other keyboard manufacturers group them all together, which is, I never understood that, because when you separate the AC cord from everything else, you are guaranteeing that you are not going to get hum or other interference from the AC power supply by having your other cords, inputs and outputs near that. So always a good idea to keep that as far away as possible from everything else. Okay, so now on the keyboard itself, the face over here, standard pitch bend modulation wheel. What's nice about the location about that is it's placed above the leftmost keys rather than to the left. That's a great thing because when it's placed above, the keyboard length is shorter. It will fit into the back seat of most cars. If it were to the left, that adds length and it won't fit into the back seat of most cars. Instead, you'll have to put it diagonally in between you'll have to fold down the front passenger seat and put it in diagonally between the front passenger seat and the rear behind the driver's seat. hassle. You can't take anybody with you. Couple of switches, switch 1, switch 2, they're both assignable. And to give you an example of how that's used with like on some of the organs over here, switch 1 controls fast or slow for the rotary, and that's pretty cool too. Couple of sliders here, volume and line in. Volume controls the overall volume to the line outs as well as to the headphone jack that's located on the lower left of the front panel over here. Line in we briefly touched on, but basically you can put anything you want through that line in, whether it's your MP3 player or an iPod or whatever, or another instrument. You feed it through the line ins and you can control the amount of gain or volume as it comes in. Over here you got a mixer section, you got 4 faders, you got 4 switches. These are labeled main, sub 1, sub 2, sub 3. Basically, these are 4 volume faders for 4 different instruments or sounds that you can layer together. And you can turn any one of them on or off at any time. Each one of those has an effects section. The main, or the first one, has an effects 1 and an effects 2. It's got an amp section and a reverb. All the other 3, called subsections, have an effects section and a reverb. Now, it's really cool. I'm not going to get into that right now, but you can do a lot with this stuff. It is so cool. Now we got a global section with 3 switches here labeled EQ, transpose, and local off. The EQ is so cool. Unlike other boards, you go to adjust the EQ and you get this graph on your screen for parametric EQ. You can adjust the low, the high, the mids as a Q or frequency. It is great. Now, transpose, you go to transpose and you're already in the transpose. When you hold that down, you can either transpose down or up, minus or plus 24 semitones. Local off, I mean, that's cool right there because this is a master controller. This can control any other sound source via MIDI. And when you're playing something here and you don't want the built-in sounds to sound, you'll press local off, which disconnects the keyboard from the built-in sound engines. The keyboard at that point is only sending keyboard information to external sound modules. I've been through the effects section already. We got a nice, decent sized screen over here, an LCD screen. We got 4 corners here, and each one of those 4 corners, depending on what menu you're in, is assigned to different things. And these 4 controllers labeled A, B, C, D, they're knobs, control the parameters or values for each one of those 4 things. Then you've got 4 soft switches labeled F1 through F4, which choose other things like, for instance, in this one, main, sub 1, sub 2, sub 3. Whichever one you press controls whatever sound that you have picked for the main, sub 1, sub 2, or sub 3 sliders over here. You got a keyboard lock, which is cool because if you press this, then whatever you're playing, anybody that comes up to your board while you're playing, or even you happen to just kind of rest your hands on here, nothing's going to happen. Whatever you do doesn't change because you've locked the keyboard at that point. So you're just there to play. You cannot accidentally change anything. Really cool. Press it again to turn it off. Now you can make changes. Store. That's a good one because you can store 3 different things with your storage thing. You can store sounds, which means whatever sounds that are built in, you can alter it and save the built-in sound. Or you can save the setup. A setup is another name for registration, or there's a whole bunch of other names. But basically, whatever you pick for your 4 sounds, whatever effects, whatever settings, all that stuff, you can store that as a setup, and whenever you want to get back to that again for a particular song, cool, you can get back to that. Or you can store stuff for power on. That means when you turn the power on, whatever you saved for power on mode, that's how it comes up. So you don't have to, unlike other units, power the thing on and then make some changes to get it to where you usually want it to be. Okay? Edit menu takes you into extensive editing. Cursor, no, yes, that's all part of editing. Then we get to the sounds and setups. So basically, you've got 8 different sound categories: piano, electric piano, drawbar, organ, string/vocal, brass/wind, pad/synth, and bass/guitar. Whichever one of these 8 categories you pick, you've got 8 categories or subcategories underneath that, and whatever subcategory you press, you're presented with a list of 4 variations within that category/subcategory. And you can pick one of those 4 variations with this A, B, C, D set of buttons over here. Very cool. So basically 8 times 8 times 4 gives you 256 sounds to choose from. You got a recorder section. You can turn it on or off, and you can do a lot of things with this recorder section. Not only record your performance, you can actually loop your performance. You can actually record things that are coming in through line input as well as what you're playing, which is a really cool thing to do. And one of the coolest things is it has unlimited overdub. So you're playing something, you want to add something else, you overdub onto what you've already recorded. You can keep on doing that as many times as you want with as many different instruments as you want. Very, very cool. Metronome section, although metronome is self-explanatory, it also activates the rhythm section. So you can have drums accompany you. There's over 100 accompaniments. Very cool. Settings, you've got the system setting, you've got the USB setting, but in the system it's pretty extensive. I'm not going to get into that right now. And you got a panic button. So when you press the panic button, everything reverts back to the initial power on state. That's pretty much it for the layout of this, but you also have a USB port here. You can also put in a USB thumb drive, record to it. You're not limited to just that. I found when you're performing on stage, it's kind of dark at a lot of these venues. You put one of these USB lights or these LED lights that's on a gooseneck, kind of a snake, and you can aim it wherever you want so you can see what you're doing. Very cool. Now, in addition to what I just mentioned, a lot of top-notch pianos like Kurzweil Forte, Kurzweil Artis, or Artis SE has 128 note polyphony. This one has 256. It also has triple sensor technologies. Most of these digital pianos don't. Actually, Casio has it, and it actually helps you play better when you're doing fast repetitions and things like that. Now, this is considered the little brother to the Kawai MP11, but it's not so little of a brother. It does a lot more sound-wise than the MP11. Where the MP11 excels is it's the pianist's piano. It's got wooden key sticks, really long. It's on a seesaw and all that stuff. This doesn't have that. You don't have that pianist, that grand piano feel like you do the MP11. But you do have a really good feel to this. I like this feel better than a lot of other pianos I've played. This is called their RH2 action. And even though it's not wooden key sticks or anything like that, it does feel pretty good. It feels better than a lot of pianos that I played. And it has escapement too, which if you press a key really softly, you'll feel a kind of resistance halfway through. That's called let off or escapement. It's got that too. So that's very cool stuff. Now, the other cool thing is this comes with a built-in music stand, and I cannot stress how important that is. The Korg Kronos doesn't have that. The Kurzweil series has that, but you have to buy it. It's optional. Casio, they're a mixed bag. If you get the PX350, it comes with a music stand. If you get the PX5S, which people are taking seriously, it doesn't have a built-in music stand. And, I never understood that because I really need a music stand for my notes or my scribbles, whatever. Some other people need it for their music notation. And when you have a keyboard that doesn't have that built in, that kind of grates into the portability factor because you're bringing that keyboard and now you have to bring a separate music stand. That's two things you have to bring. I never liked that. So it comes with this music rest that fits over here. But the cool thing about that, I'm sitting at a desk for a lot of these videos, so I have a mouse over here to the side. It's a wireless mouse, and I have a keyboard over here that I usually bring on top of the keys to type. But with this, you have the back, you have the ledge over here, but not only the ledge, you've got a lip that comes up here to keep things from sliding off that ledge and falling down. Well, what that's good for, that I found, you put this in. Now you take your wireless keyboard, even if it's wired, it doesn't matter. It fits right here. You can type on it. It won't fall because of that front lip. And as far as your mouse, your wireless optical mouse, even if it's wired, plenty of room right over here on the right to go ahead and move your mouse around. All right, very cool. Now, as far as some manufacturers call it stage settings, some call it registrations, some call it favorites. They call this one setups. That means whatever you've set up for a particular song, be it 1, 2, 3, or 4 different sounds for these faders, and you've set up your effects and all that stuff, you can save that as a setup. And what's really cool, you can name your setup. Now you got up to 256 different setups that you can have. The only con I have found with this board, and believe me, I have gone through this board with a fine-tooth comb, and I couldn't find any cons except for this. If you can name your setups for all 256 setups, you can give it a name. Why can't you retrieve that setup by name? Instead, you have to know where you saved it, whether it was 1.5C or 5.2D or 7.3B. Yeah, okay, you can type up something that says, oh, we're playing this song, recall setup number 6.3A. All right, cool. What if that's on my cell phone, my smartphone, or my tablet, and I lose power to that, or I forgot the phone? Why can't there be something built in where I can look it up by what name I've given it? That's the only con I've come up with so far. Okay? And the other thing is this virtual piano technician. I've touched on that with the MP11. Go see my MP11 videos for that. It's very, very, very powerful. And as far as the drawbar organ, the Nord Stage 2 and the Kurzweil Forte, they had excellent organs and you had control of all the organ stops. You got that here too. Unlike things like, say, the Kurzweil Artis SE, where you've got 4 sliders, just like you do here, and you only got control of 4 of the drawbars. You can press a switch and get to some of the others. Over here, you've got control of all 9. You've got a graphic that appears on the LCD screen of all 9 drawbars. So the first 4 sliders control the first 4 drawbars. The knobs over here, A, B, C, D, control the next 4. And the no, yes, or minus plus keys control the 9th one. So you have control of all 9 organ stops right here without pressing extra buttons. Very, very, very cool. Okay, and that's pretty much it for this board. That's about what I have to relate to you today. There'll be more videos coming. And I just wanted to mention one more thing. A lot of manufacturers are getting away from the general MIDI sound set, and I need that sound set. You know, the sound set that has like gunshots, applause, ocean waves, birds, helicopters, all kinds of stuff. This actually has that. I found that in the back of the manual. To get to that, that's a whole different story. It's not really obvious how to get to that. So I'm going to do another video that will tell you how to get to that. That's coming in the future. For now, this MP7, one of my favorite stage pianos at this point. Piano Man Chuck, peace out. Thanks for watching.